Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So thanks for the unrelentless sharing as well as a few willing volunteers trying to help me test some team ideas out. We have finally arrived at what is probably the most meta and the strongest Crystal Beetle comp, and in today's video we're gonna break down the team idea, why this comp is probably the strongest and why you guys should copy it. So before I begin, right, this is an end game comp, so I'll also offer some suggestions for the different variations that you guys can try, and I'll probably prepare a more free-to-play friendly version for the end game comp once we have an idea what it will look like. So this is like the end game premium comp. If you have these very premium units, this will be your peak damage team. Okay, so if you don't have it, I'll offer some suggestions, but I cannot promise them to be the best ideas. But if I do have the best free-to-play comp based by most people's free-to-play standards, then I'll probably share the idea. Okay, so without further ado, let's go into my friend's account. So right here, I actually did a few testing. So I'm on friend's account because my account ran out of attempts. So for this account itself, right, we are currently at 27.5 build. Okay, we are rank 1 in the district, and with regards to the reso levels, we are about 481 on 3 unit and then 47 something on the rest of the other units, which I'll show over here. So this over here is the best team comp that we have found so far. It is also the most consistent one, which I'll explain why. So let's start with the very first unit, which I thought why nobody used, right? And that is none other than Smokey. So Smokey is obviously there because he provides the heal, the sustain, the massive attack buff to boost your whole team's damage output, as well as his EX weapon. So his EX weapon over here does quite a bit of damage, right? I think most of you guys should know by now, so I'm not going to explain too much. So this Smokey is at 481 because I want him to be as high attack as possible so that he can burn as much HP as possible. So I'll also showcase the end damage run to let you guys see the damage distribution and then break down the analysis. So one thing about Smokey is that this unit provides the Molar faction together with Scalita as well as Coco, and this unit is, I would say, just insanely good for bossing purposes. And to be honest, for my case, the magic charm is not at the highest tier yet, unfortunately, but I think in terms of healing and sustain, the team has more than enough going. So for Smokey's case, he's for sustain, he's for attack buff, and slightly a little bit of DPS. In fact, I think his DPS is a lot better than a lot of carries that we tested, so that's why we decided to employ him. And then the next unit is also the pairing for the strongest support, which is Coco. So Coco and Smokey combo needs no explanation, right? Coco offers massive damage reduction, which keeps your team healthy from the burst from the boss, and then she's able to provide a shield which is able to cover the boss's third attack. So the boss has a third attack where the boss summons a spike that extends forward, knocking enemies with low HP into the air and stunning them. So there's also this caveat that if enemies lose HP from this attack, then they will be knocked into the air. So the one way to overcome this lose HP from damage is to just make a shield so big that the boss's damage doesn't go through. So this is the purpose of Coco. This is the purpose of using Coco as the shielder. So Coco is there for the massive damage reduction as well as the massive shield, as well as the additional attack buff, right? 10% attack buff, not the best, but good enough for this boss in terms of maximizing your damage. So next we have Torrent. So for Torrent's case, Torrent is obviously one of the strongest debuff in the team. I think these 3 units needs these 3 units don't really need too much introduction because I think Torrent is just a unit which does a lot of things really well, right? Tanking up, debuffing, doing damage. So this unit is able to absorb the damage from the boss and then use the ultimate to counter attack, which deals a lot of damage. At the same time, this boss is also able to drain the HP, so this one is additional damage, and then this unit is also able to debuff the enemy, yeah, over here. Okay, so debuff, damage, as well as tanking up and also soaking damage for your carry to do that more damage on the ultimate itself. So that's the purpose of Torrent. So Torrent is there for this reason. And then the best carry based on multiple tactics, right? So we tested a lot of carries. So we tested obviously the merely oldie core, obviously we even tested Morale, we also tested Dino, but end of the day I think Corrin is the best carry for this boss, because for this boss itself, right, this boss has this 100 dodge, so any unit that is reliant on their normal attack is not going to hit the boss as consistently, or is going to miss their attacks a lot. So what happens here is that units like OD and Merrily and Dino, they're all, I'll say, very normal attack centric character, so you want a very skill centric character to do damage, and that is where Corrin comes into play. So Corrin's main damage output doesn't really come from the normal attacks. I'll say that Corrin is a mix between a skill abuser as well as a normal attacker. So for this unit, because most of the damage comes from the skills itself, this unit is going to hit really hard. And fortunately for this account, we have the 2 charm sets, so I'm going to go into the unit showcase first. Okay, so fortunately for my friend's account, we managed to farm up 2 charm set for him. So we got the HP one, which buffs haste and vitality. So vitality is not so important because we can survive, but the haste is the important part, so this allows him to use the skill faster. And then we also have the X1, so the X1 provides attack and life drain. So same thing, life drain is okay but not the most important, attack is the most important. So very fortunate for this account, and that's for Corrin, which is our main carry. And then obviously, as you guys saw just now, the main last unit is Skalita. Okay, so Skalita is there because of her fractional bonus to link up the Maulers, so we get a 11% boost. And at the same time, Skalita herself does a lot of damage because she is able to do true damage. Oh, by the way, both Skalita and Corrin also has some ability to shield, so Corrin can shield one ally and then Skalita can shield another one when she's in the air, so this will also reduce the effect of the third skill. So shielding is to reduce the effect of the third skill. So Corrin is a best carry, is also the carry with the shielding effect. For Skalita's case, she's able to shield when she's in the air, she's also able to provide the fractional link, and then she's able to do true damage. And last but the most important thing why Skalita is included instead of the many buffers out there is also because this unit has the insanely powerful seasonal buff. So this seasonal buff increases haste, which increases your damage output, increases the rate where your unit uses their skill. So just now I mentioned that for this boss itself, normal attacks, they are not going to do as well, so you want to rely on your skills. So increase in haste is insanely good for the boss, and then you also get a massive damage boost because right now I think this is at level 7 or level 8, so that's a 14 or 15% damage boost for the team based on the seasonal skill itself. So the caveat is you want to hit the boss with all the skill related damage source, and then rely on the buffing and healing and shielding from Smokey and Coco to keep the sustain for your team going. Additionally, Smokey is also able to buff up the haste for your team when he activates his ultimate, so that's one way for your whole team to do more damage in the process. So the relic of choice or the artifact of choice is Evocation Spell. So Evocation Spell is used because of the shielding as well as the increased haste. So life drain from this is also pretty helpful because it helps to regenerate HP for your team, even though you don't actually need it because you have both Smokey and Coco. So life drain is not the most crucial part, but it's good to have. So the increase in shield, the attack as well as the haste is the important part why you are using Evocation Spell. At the same time, there's also some RNG factor because there's quite a lot of crit and quite a massive attack buff. So another artifact you can use is Quick Blade Spell, which offers even more crit. But one thing about Quick Blade Spell is, I'll say, the lack of haste, which slows down your skills usage, and then physical damage is not really going to benefit the whole team because it's only going to benefit like the 2 melee attackers, the 2 physical one, Corey and Torrent, and not the team. Whereas for Evocation Spell, the effect of Evocation Spell is fully benefited by the whole team. So I'll say Evocation Spell overall will be the much better one. So some people might ask, will I be using Dashing Spell? I think Dashing Spell is not very good because the attack speed duration boost, right, is not really long, and at the same time the value is not big enough to justify why you want to use it. The attack percentage is also a lot lower, which lowers the skill damage output of a lot of skills from your units, right? Like I mentioned earlier, this team, it's more skill reliant to do damage. Like Torrent relies on skill to do damage, Corrin relies on his skill to do damage, Skalita as well. So obviously there is some like true damage, normal attack damage kind of thing going on there, but it's not as significant. So I think attack speed is probably not a good artifact here. So attack speed only scales really well when you are doing very big normal attack damage, so you want to hit as much normal attack damage as possible. So evocation spell, the best artifact of choice. Okay, so this is a team setup. Without further ado, let's jump into the battle, then do some post damage analysis for you guys. Okay, so at the start, I'll go at one time. So at the start of the battle, right, the units, they will move, I'll say, towards the right side. So one thing we realize about the positioning of Smokey is that the boss's third skill will target in the direction where there's the most units. So as you guys can see, it seems like the boss has a 3-directional targeting pattern. So Torrent and Corinne is sort of on the left side of the boss. So the boss is targeting the left side, and that's where the spike will only aim the left side. So over here, the blue aura is there. So this is where Smokey is able to do damage, and this is the ultimate. So when you have Coco's ultimate active with all the shielding and healing going on, you're able to tank that hit if your levels are high enough. And then because you have a lot of units in the left side of the boss's third skill will focus only on Torrent. So this is where Torrent will take the damage, will reflect a lot of damage, while your other units can do what they want to do effectively without being disrupted. Okay, so this is how the battle looks like. So Smokey, being in that direction, is able to buff the whole battlefield, which is able to buff Skalita, who is all the way always at the very corner of the boss, which is pretty unfortunate. And then because the battle lasts long enough, because this team is able to sustain the full duration of the boss, you're able to fully benefit from Skalita's seasonal skill. So there are a few substitutes that you guys can definitely try. I'm not going to try it in this run. I'm going to suggest it after this, right? I'm going to do 2 runs to show you guys the consistency of this team, as well as offer some suggestions based on the different unit ideas that you guys might be asking inside the comment section below. So right here, as you guys can see, we still have 10 seconds left. We are already at 26 billion. Very, very consistent team. So I'm just going to 2 times and end the battle from there. Okay, so 26, so okay, so 27.4 bill. Okay, so this is the damage range that we are getting on this account. So 27 bill. So this is the damage distribution before I forget. So Corinne is the main damage source. Both Skalita and Torrent, they are like secondary damage. So Torrent is more from the counter attack as well as the soul plunder. Skalita more so from the slam of the skill, as well as there to offer the seasonal buff. So as you guys can see, Smokey is also able to offer quite a bit of damage. So one way to increase your team DPS is to increase the EX level of Smokey. So you get EX 15, more damage on Smokey. So overall, this is the team setup, the strongest team setup. Okay, so let's go into the second round, right? So I'm gonna talk about the different substitutes that you guys can use, right? If you don't have Skalita, right? Skalita is very premium. So who do you use if you don't have Skalita? If you don't have Skalita, I would say you can definitely use Lucius as well, because Lucius is another unit with the same seasonal skill as Skalita. Okay, but for Lucius' case, you might want to take note of your positioning, because one thing about the Crystal Beast is, like I mentioned, the third skill targets the area of the most enemy. So just now you guys realize that on the most left hand side of the boss, right, it's always hitting Torrent and Corinne, because that's where the 2 units are positioned. So if you want to put Lucius, you kind of want to put him towards the left side, so you can keep Smokey safe in the middle in terms of the positioning. So that's for the Skalita replacement. Obviously, your Lucius must be able to tank through. So if your Lucius is not tanky, I think any other buffers is also okay. So another buffer I can think of is obviously Hewin. So if your team is not tanking that well, I think Hewin is fine in this position, because she keeps your team healthy, at the same time buffing people up with her seasonal skill. So she'll probably be buffing Corinne up there. So she also has the haste buff, right? So she has a haste buff if you have her as Supreme Plus. I think she does have yeah, she does have a debuff as well. Yeah, she does have a debuff, which is quite helpful, and her heal basically keeps your whole team alive. And then if you have seasonal skill, right, this seasonal skill is able to buff the haste and attack for Corinne, which will also boost your damage. Unfortunately, if you go this route, then you'll be missing a little bit of the factional bonus, so that is a bummer. You can also try Phraesto. I think Phraesto is okay. Let me find Phraesto on this account. So one thing about Phraesto is Phraesto also provides quite a bit of buff, but I think the positioning of Phraesto will be a little bit iffy because for Phraesto case, like I mentioned earlier, the boss third skill will target the location with the most enemies, so Phraesto actually cause the boss to redirect. So I don't think Phraesto is the best choice. Another unit that I can think of is obviously the use of Rainer, but for Rainer's case, I think you might have to work a little bit in terms of the positioning of your units. So if let's say we are doing Rainer, what I would do is I will position my unit in this manner. So I'll send in Corinne, right, for the main damage source, and then after that for the Coco's case, because Coco is on the left side, we will draw the boss's attention for the third skill. So I haven't really tested it out because even though Rainer is exceptionally good in boosting the damage taken by the boss, I think for Rainer's case, right, Rainer's seasonal skill is not exactly the best to boost damage. So for those of you guys who don't have Skalita but you have Rainer, you guys can definitely give this comp a try and then let me know the results from there, because I did see a few screenshots where people ran this exact same team and the damage never passed 26 billion, at least for those of the whales I know that have the units. So that's why I don't think this is the best comp, but this comp should be good enough if you don't have Skalita, right? I think Rainer should be something that most people have, so you can never try this comp out. Then for Coco's case, if you don't have Coco but you have Rainer, what you can do, like I mentioned earlier, is the use of Lucius. Okay, so Lucius also provides the seasonal skill. Lucius provides the fractional link, which is pretty decent there. If you don't have Smokey, it's fine. Yeah, just use Coco in the place of Smokey, although you'll be losing a little bit of damage as well as a little bit of buff, but overall your damage should still do pretty well. For Torrent's case, I'll say in terms of what Torrent wants to do, Torrent is pretty irreplaceable. But if you don't have Torrent, yeah, just omit Torrent. You can run a full Light Bearer setup, maybe even with Merrily, which I think most people should have Merrily. So these are the few ideas that you guys can definitely try in terms of the boss itself. But I'll say the very first team that we shared just now should probably still be the better comp. Okay, so for the free-to-play side, I'll probably do a few more testing before I draw a conclusion and provide a more free-to-play team idea. So I will probably craft out the Z-Best guy after we get all the necessary mythic charms. So that's one thing to consider in terms of the unit's charms itself, because I think optimization of your charm is gonna boost your damage differently. So we will need a few days to farm up the charms and then test out which one would be the most optimal combination, because I still need a bit of time to test on my own account as well as a few other people's account if they're willing to lend me. So if you're willing to lend me your account and you have the account to test things out, do feel free to DM me on Discord, right? I'm open to DMs in terms of sharing of ideas as well as generating of new meta teams moving forward. Okay, so this is for Corinne's magic charm. Let me just level the units on my friend's account first so that we get maximum effect. Okay, so level up. I think I will, okay, I'll just boost this to 480, and then for this case I'll say I will give Torrent the 480 because I don't think Coco matters too much with levels. So without further ado, let's jump into the last run. So I'll showcase the consistency of this team, because this team doesn't really die. It's this team is actually pretty much there after, I'll say, at least 5 or 6 rounds of testing. So that's why my account has no more attempts, unfortunately, and I have to use my friend's account to showcase it. So this is it, right? I'm going to showcase the second run to showcase the team consistency. Okay, so levels check, let's go. Okay, so if you guys discovered any secret strat that you guys want to share, or if you guys have an idea that you guys want me to test out and I think it's viable, feel free to comment in the comment section down below. So a part of this, other than the analytical guy, is also credits to all the comment section people who have been sharing a few ideas with me. So all these ideas are all translated into testing, right, to come to this conclusion that this is the strongest team based on the current units in the pool. So moving forward, right, if any of you guys out there discovered even more meta comp and you're open to sharing, let me know. Hit me up in Discord or share it in the analytical Discord, which I'll link in the description down below. Okay, So I'm just gonna 2 times this because the battle is pretty much the same. So as you guys can see, right, for this positioning itself, for the boss positioning itself, Smokey is able to fully keep the heals up. So when Smokey is able to keep the aroma up, the aroma is able to effectively boost the damage output of your team by keeping them healthy while providing them with the attack up. So right here, as you guys can see, pretty consistent damage, 27.3 billion. So there will be a little bit of RNG in terms of critting as well as the different damage source, right, from Smokey and stuff. So you can recalibrate the star levels of your unit to maximize your damage. Okay, so pretty consistent, 27 build range. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching through, and I'll see you guys again in my next AFK journey video. Bye guys.